Bigger is not always better, but some pictures definitely look better in big size. I just received the fine art prints that I ordered from Saal Digital, the sponsor of this video, by the way. Let's see how they look. Don't they simply look awesome? In this video, I'm gonna share my thoughts and tips on fine art printing. Why you should print, how to get the best results, how to display your prints, and what size to print, because bigger is not always better. I love printed photos much more than photos on any kind of a screen. I guess one reason is that when I started out as a photographer long time ago, there were no high quality screens. So printed work was the only way to take a proper look at your photos. Also, when I was a commercial photographer, I shot countless assignments for magazines, ad campaigns, corporate publications and whatnot. So printed work has always been a big part of my photography. And then a few reasons why you definitely should print your work. Number one reason is that a print is something tangible. It's a real object that the viewer can touch and feel. In a print, a photograph becomes something real, something other than just colored dots on a screen. Another reason is that a print makes an impact. The viewing experience is completely on another level compared to viewing pictures on a phone screen, for example. And prints are not that common these days. Many people have never even seen a proper fine art print, and that's another reason why a print makes an impact. Show your prints to your friends and they'll be impressed. I guarantee you that. And one more reason to print your work is that you don't need any devices to view your prints. You can view them with your bare eyes without any technological devices, as long as you have the print with you and as long as there is some ambient light. And one more thing, pretty much any picture looks awesome in print. That's another reason to print your work. To make it easier for you to try fine art printing, I'll put a promotion code down below. You can get 50% off in certain selected Saal Digital locations. Give it a try and impress yourself and your friends. And then a couple of tips for the best results. And the first tip is the color management. It's not mandatory, but it's something that I highly recommend for the best results. What it means is that you adjust your photograph so that the colors fit into the color gamut of the printer, because a print cannot display bright saturated colors the same way as your screen can. And one such typical such saturated color is a blue sky, the gradient in the blue sky. And you'll have that in pretty much every picture that you take outside, and you probably love to print your landscape photos. And if you don't do the color management part before you print, you may end up with a funny looking sky in your print, and you don't want that. The color management part is not difficult. For example, Saal Digital, they have very good detailed instructions on their website, and if you follow those, you can easily do that. It's not difficult at all, and you'll also learn something new while you're at it. And another important step is the choice of paper. There are basically two types of paper, a glossy paper and a matte surface paper. Then there are few different types of matte and glossy paper. Some are smooth and some have a little bit of structure. I generally like a glossy surface for my black and white photos, mainly because a glossy surface has slightly a better tonal range compared to a matte surface. And I get these really deep blacks with a glossy surface paper for my black and white work. But it's not a fixed rule. I sometimes use also a matte surface for my black and white pictures. For my color work, I usually like to use a matte surface paper like this Hahnemühle photo rack. It has such a beautiful smooth matte surface. I think one reason for this for me is that back in the day before inkjet printers we did not have color papers like this. All color papers were shiny, glossy or semi-glossy or something like that. They looked more or less plastic. There were some special processes like dye transfer, and with that you could print on variety of papers, but that is a very complex process, not feasible for most photographers. And all traditional photo papers were more or less glossy, and that's one reason why I love this matte surface for my color work. The choice of paper, of course, is a personal preference. There are no fixed rules for that. However, my recommendation is that if you print black and white, try first a glossy surface paper like this Hahnemühle Fine Art Barita. It's such a beautiful glossy surface with a little bit of structure. And if you print color, first try a matte surface paper like this Hahnemühle photo rack, which is my absolute favorite for color photos. But what is the best print size? Again, no fixed rules there. It depends on some things like your subject matter and how you plan to present your work. But one thing is for sure, bigger is not always better. For example, this blue picture that I shot at Tallinn Harbor, Estonia many years ago, I think it looks really good in this relatively small size. The paper is A4 size and the image area is considerably smaller. And talking about that, you should always leave white borders around your picture, even if you think that you are wasting valuable paper area there. But it looks so much better, and if you plan to frame your picture, it's a lot easier to frame a print like this that has generous white borders around the image area. But some pictures definitely look better in big size, like this picture of a vintage Alfa Romeo or this picture of frosted autumn leaves on the ground. Wait a minute, I think it's this way up. And this is also a very good example of a print that has not enough white border around it. This would be very difficult to frame properly and beautifully because it doesn't have enough white border around it. If you plan to hang your pictures on the wall, for example, then you probably want the little bit bigger prints because they are easier to see from a distance. But if you plan to have, for example, a printed portfolio, maybe A4 size like this print is better because it's more practical that way. However, there's one thing you should never think about too much, and that is your camera gear or the technical quality of your files. Because pretty much any digital camera file is good enough for pretty much any size of print, if the technical execution was spot on when you took the picture. If you were really pushing the limits of your camera when you took the picture, then the files may not be enough for super big prints. But we recreational photographers, we don't usually print that big. For example, these prints on the wall of my tiny workspace here, they are 50 by 75 centimeters, and these prints are from Micro Four Thirds camera and 1-inch sensor Sony RX100 camera, and they look absolutely fantastic. And I can't imagine a situation where I needed much bigger prints than this for my own personal use. So always let your subject matter and your intended end use dictate the size of your prints, and never your camera gear or the technical quality of your pictures. Then a couple of bonus ideas for printing. You can, for example, print multiple pictures on one single sheet of paper. Here I wanted to have all these pink subjects on the same sheet of paper. This way I can tell a stronger story and I can determine the order of my pictures, which I cannot do if I have 3 individual prints. And here's another one, 3 portraits on one single sheet of paper. Same thing here, I can tell a better, stronger story, and I can determine the order of my pictures, which I could not do if I had these printed individually. I hope you found these fine art printing tips useful. Please do print your photos, they are worth it. This is all I have for you in this video. If you found this video entertaining or useful, please do consider buying me a cup of coffee. There's a link down below for that if you don't live in Finland. Thanks once again, and I'll see you in the next one.